Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're gearing up for the IBPS PO exam, or honestly any high-stakes competitive test, you already know the massive mountain standing between you and a top score. Yep, the vocabulary section. Today, we're not just going to sit here and stare at some daunting 100-word list of high-frequency exam words. No way. Instead, we're going to transform that absolute monster of a list into a strategic, memory-boosting toolkit. Because, let's be real for a second, your brain, it is not a hard drive. Staring at a flashcard until your eyes literally cross just doesn't work. So my goal today is to show you exactly how to break down this complex, overwhelming information into highly digestible visual chunks so you can actually lock these definitions into your long-term memory. All right, let's dive right in.
See, this is exactly what most study guides just hand over to you. A massive 100-word alphabetical roadblock. I mean, just trying to read this A to Z list from abolish all the way down to magnify and beyond, it's a huge challenge. Memorizing this sheer volume sequentially is not only totally exhausting, but it's actually incredibly inefficient for how our brains genuinely retain information. But here is our pivot strategy. We are going to completely hack this list using thematic chunking. So instead of alphabetical order, we're going to group these source words by their underlying meanings, and more importantly, how they actually function in the reading comprehension passages you're going to face on the exam.
So here's our roadmap for doing exactly that. We'll tackle the 100-word challenge, then move into words of action and change, measuring size and impact, and navigating truth and clarity. After that, we'll explore essential contrasts and opposites and wrap the whole shebang up with a final exam strategy.
Section 1, the 100-word vocabulary challenge. Let's find those patterns.
Let's start by looking squarely at the challenge in front of us. Memorizing 100 words sequentially from A to Z, well, that is a classic recipe for cognitive overload. If you're a focused learner who values efficiency, you've probably felt that sheer frustration of traditional flashcard methods where absolutely nothing seems to stick. You are definitely not alone in that struggle. Your brain simply isn't wired to remember totally disconnected facts just because they happen to start with the same letter. So we aren't just going to read this list like a dictionary today. Instead, we're looking for the semantic relationships naturally hidden within the source material. By finding the patterns, we give the vocabulary context. And context, that is the absolute ultimate key to memory retention.
Section 2, words of action and change.
These are the high-frequency verbs, the words that literally drive the movement in exam reading passages. Whenever an author is describing, say, a new policy, an economic shift, or a corporate strategy, these are the exact words pulling the strings. And we can actually weave these seemingly disconnected words into a logical mini-narrative to remember them all at once. Imagine a business scenario. To initiate or begin a new project, you might first need to amend, which means change officially, an old set of rules. Once those rules are changed, you can implement or put into action your brand new strategy. Now, if you want those results to accelerate, meaning speed up, you absolutely must cease or stop any bad habits. And of course, in the real world, progress isn't just a straight line, right? Results will often fluctuate, meaning they will change frequently. Just by linking these words into a single cohesive story of action, you've just memorized 6 high-frequency verbs without breaking a sweat.
Now let's actually slow down for just a second to really emphasize this absolutely crucial noun from our source list. Catalyst, something causing change. Think of it as the ultimate spark. Because without a catalyst, you can't initiate a plan or accelerate a process. It is the core driver of literally all the action words we just reviewed. When you see the word catalyst pop up in a reading passage, you instantly know, okay, a major shift is about to be discussed.
Section 3, measuring size and impact.
This section focuses on adjectives that help quantify data, which is absolutely vital for parsing those complex data or economic passages on your exam. These words actually represent a sliding scale, which is a brilliant little trick to hack your spatial memory. Picture a literal measuring stick right now in your mind. At the very top, you have enormous, meaning huge, and abundant, meaning plenty. Just a step below that is substantial, which just means large. Right in the comfortable, safe middle, you have adequate, meaning sufficient. Then, as we drop down the scale, things become sparse or thinly spread. And finally, at the very bottom of our scale, the impact is negligible, meaning very small. By visually mapping this top-to-bottom scale, you effectively anchor the meanings of these words to a physical space inside your mind.
But wait, what happens when a measurement completely falls off that scale? Well, that brings us to anomaly, defined in our source list as an irregularity. I really want to highlight this term because, let me tell you, exam questions absolutely love to target it.
If a passage spends 3 whole paragraphs describing an abundant or substantial trend and then suddenly introduces an anomaly, you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a comprehension question about that exact irregularity. It's the classic exception to the rule.
Section 4. Navigating Truth and Clarity.
Competitive exams frequently test the gray areas of corporate communication, media reporting, and ethics, so this cluster will help you decode exactly what an author is trying to reveal or, hide. Let's construct another brief scenario together. In any organization, communication is key, right? So if a new policy is apparent or explicit, it means it is entirely clear. The leadership is being transparent, meaning totally open. But if a policy is not explicit, it becomes ambiguous or unclear. And when things are ambiguous, employees and stakeholders naturally start to wonder, hey, is the leadership trying to conceal or hide the truth? Seeing these words grouped together like this helps you instantly recognize the tone of a reading passage, whether the author is describing an honest, straightforward situation or a highly deceptive one.
And naturally, that connects right into this next word, dilemma, which means a difficult choice. Because when you're dealing with ambiguous information or someone actively trying to conceal facts, it frequently puts decision makers in a massive dilemma. They simply don't have the explicit facts they need to move forward easily. See how beautifully these source concepts just link together?
Section 5. Essential Contrasts and Opposites.
We're now pivoting to the real climax of our thematic strategy, using natural tension. By placing direct opposites side by side, we can basically lock meanings right into our long-term memory. Our brains just love contrast. It highlights differences and makes definitions totally pop. Take a look at this. On one side, we have boost, meaning to increase. On the exact opposite side, we have curtail, meaning to reduce, and deplete, meaning to exhaust. Seeing boost juxtaposed directly against curtail and deplete creates a highly memorable mental link. Think about it. If a government wants to boost the economy, they might have to deplete their financial reserves to do it. The natural tension between these actions cements the vocabulary in your head way, way better than just reading them 20 words apart on some random alphabetical list.
We see this exact same powerful tension again when comparing benevolent, which means kind, to hostile, which means unfriendly. If an exam passage discusses, say, a corporate takeover, identifying whether the acquiring company is acting in a benevolent manner or a hostile manner completely changes how you're going to answer the questions at the very end of the text. Contrast is just an incredibly powerful decoding tool.
Section 6. Final Exam Strategy. Let's synthesize all of this. We've taken a seemingly impossible alphabetical list and broken it down into action, size, truth, and contrasts. Now let's synthesize how mastering these exact clusters elevates your overall reading comprehension for the IBPS PO. I kind of want to act as your coach for a minute here, using the very high-frequency source words we've been studying to build an empowering checklist for exam day. First, you must perceive, meaning understand, the full context of the passages using those thematic chunks we discussed. Once you truly understand the context, you can anticipate or expect the author's meaning and exactly where their argument is heading. Now, before the exam, make sure you consolidate, meaning strengthen, your knowledge by reviewing these words in their clusters, not A to Z. If you do these 3 things, you will absolutely prosper, which simply means succeed on the final exam.
Which leaves us with one final, very important thought. You now have the exact blueprint to bypass the total cognitive overload of traditional studying. You can take these thematic chunks, use the natural tension of opposites, and build those vivid mini-narratives right in your mind. You aren't